Today we're going to be discussing the functionality of the EBiz credit card application order entry process, where we're able to process credit card transactions from within the Macola application, not needing to leave. First thing we're going to do is we're actually going to create an order. We're going to start with the concept of an OType order, and the OType order is going to be the standard order that we would normally process. When we process an OType order, what we're going to find is we have the ability to do a pre-authorization. So let's get started. We're going to put in the customer and tab through until we get to the terms code. The terms code allows us to define this and identify this as a credit card transaction. This is what triggers the application and gets us on the road. Next we want to add is an item number. We're going to call this BC Cable. And we're going to order 10 of these. Processing the transaction just as we would normally, we're now going to get the application which is going to allow us to select the credit card. Right now the application is gathering the credit cards, and we're going to select one. We're going to select one for the card number 2220, and it's a Visa card. We're going to submit that. What we've done is we've actually sent the information to EBiz, and they've sent back the information for this card, and they put in the sale amount, freight amount, charges, etc. This is where we would go through the process of pre-authorizing this card right now, which identifies the card and encumbers the card for the amount of the transaction. In this particular instance, we're going to leave everything the way it is and simply pre-authorize now. The transaction is approved, and the transaction simply indicates that the authorization, not the capture of the credit card, has been approved, so we're going to select OK. So now we process the OType order transaction, and the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go in and bill it. So we're going to go in and select order number 178. And by selecting card number 178, we're simply going to process the billing phase. We're going to bill all items for a cutoff date of 12/3, and we're able to add freight charges here and miscellaneous charges as well. Now that we've processed the transaction and we've billed it, the next thing we're going to see is a processed transaction showing that the order number is 178, the card number was 220, and the original amount of the pre-authorization was $50, and this is the authorization code. We're going to select OK. And when we do, we're going to get the process the credit card transaction. You'll notice that the sale amount is still $50. We have the ability to add an email receipt, and we'll process this sale now. You'll notice that the transaction has been approved against the authorization code of 144685 for order number 178. The transaction is complete. Let's do another order. And this time we're going to do an I-type order, which is a counter sale. So instead of taking the O-type order, we're going to do an invoice type order. Again, we tab through. And again, this time we're going to select customer number 902, ship to, and tab through. But what we're noticing now is that the terms are 45 days, net 45. That doesn't mean, that's only the default for the customer. That doesn't mean we can't process with the credit card transaction. So we're going to change the terms code to CC and process through. And this time we're going to put in a bike AS. And we're going to do one of these. And you'll notice that immediately the billing screen comes up. We're not going to put in any freight because, well, this is an I-type order or a counter sale, and it's going to be shipped immediately. We now again have the ability to accept a credit card number. And we're going to accept this one. Submit it. send it to EBiz, and EBiz brings us back the information for that credit card. We're only submitting a token to EBiz. EBiz provides all the rest of the information from the file that they maintain for the transaction. You'll notice that the sale amount is $14.95, but you'll also notice that there's no pre-authorization or refund this sale now. We're going to process this sale now because this is a credit card transaction based on an over-the-counter sale. Transaction is approved, and we'll simply say OK. The final one we want to try now is our credit memo functionality. Again, just as with the rest of them, we need to select the item number. We need to select the order number, and we're going to process against customer number 901. Again, it's a credit card, and we're going to put in and we're going to do 10 of these, and again escape. So we're going to generate and create a credit card transaction for a credit memo. You'll notice we have freight charges. We have that information available to us. We're not going through the billing process, and as with the OType order, we're seeing a credit memo transaction not requiring the billing functionality. It also allows us to select a credit card that we want to use to process. Again, we're going to assume that this is card number 220. We're going to submit it. And now that we've submitted it, we again have the ability to process this credit card transaction. It says the sale amount, but in fact, this is a credit memo. We come over here to process this sale amount now is not lit, neither is a pre-authorization now. We're going to click refund the sale now. It gives us the transaction approved. The card has been captured. All right, we're going to exit out of here. A couple of things we want to talk about now. Now that we've got 178, 79, and 80, we now have 3 invoices or 2 invoices in a credit memo that we want to process. So what we're going to do now is we're going to actually cancel out of this. And let's actually go into the invoice piece, and we're going to print our invoices. We're going to print all the invoices that are available to us, or we could go with the starting order number and ending order number. Let's just go with all of them. And we're going to print them. We could also send them to disk. I'm not going to print the alignments. And we're going to say the invoice is printed correctly. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to post those invoices. And select OK. And you'll notice as we're doing the posting process, you'll notice not only does it post the invoice or the credit memo, it also posts the cash amount. Now that we've processed, invoiced, and posted those items, let's go back in and check out our accounts receivable. We processed to 2 different customers. Let's actually just go in and take a look at the cards for customer number 901. We know that we process a card for 901, and we'll go into match. When we see match, you'll notice that the information isn't in here from the transaction we just processed. That's because the credit card application matches the credit receipt with the invoice itself. The only way we get to see it is if we click on the all functionality. Let's go down to the bottom and take a look, and you'll notice here we have the $1,500 for this particular transaction, and the $50 for this transaction. So now what we have is these two items. If I click on this, what we'll see is this is the invoice, and this is the invoice. So it's automatically matched, so if we only select the unmatched, you'll notice everything disappears. We're going to go one more place, and actually we need to get out of Macola, and now we're going to go into the credit card integration application. And what that allows us to do is it allows us to select a customer, and it has a contain search, so if we want to look at customer number 902, we would find that. We're really only going to look for 901. And we want to go to AR Cache. What AR Cache allows us to do is select all the information from a particular customer. We're going to select these two items here, and we're going to pay this amount. You'll notice it also has the amount selected that we could pay using a credit card, and this is from the open accounts receivable for that customer. We also have the ability to select the amount we want to pay. We don't have to pay the whole thing. We can actually pay a portion of it. We're going to pay the whole amount here, though. We're going to click Submit. And again, as with processing the transaction through Macola and the order entry process, we're going to select a credit card, submit it. The information then comes back to us. Again, the sale amount, and it's really not a sale amount. We're really paying an invoice that has already been entered into the accounts receivable. And we're going to process this sale now, and the transaction is approved. So what we've seen is the ability to process credit card transactions in the order entry process without actually having to leave the Macola product. This works not only with Macola ES, which is what we showed you, but also EM10, as well as Globe, and as well as Progression. The functionality exists for processing outside of the application using AR Cache, which pulls a customer information from an open file and allows us to process credit card transactions